we want to say transparency, the investor has to know what's going on in the company, has to understand it. In the United States and other countries, we kind of do that kind of through the ultimate threat of a lawsuit. You don't tell me, I see you would talk about it in court. Okay? You couldn't really do that in Japan in '89, particularly if you're a foreigner, and the laws weren't really in favor of you doing it. Okay, so we raised this kind of red at that point. The second thing is knowledge intensity. To have a good entrepreneurial environment, you have to have a lot of people having a lot of knowledge, a lot of different breadth of knowledge, physical sciences, accounting, business, all that kind of stuff. And of course, Japan ranks very highly in that dimension, always has. Another thing is a high-quality mobile workforce. The source of talent for entrepreneurial companies comes from people jumping around companies, you know, or changing their career paths, doing that kind of thing. Well, certainly in 1989, we had the lifetime employment system and seniority system in Japan, and it's really not conducive for people moving from job to job. We rated on a yellow in this dimension. The next dimension is a results-oriented meritocracy. Really, really important. If the culture, the place where entrepreneurs are going, is something where when you get results, you get rewarded, you get a lot of entrepreneurs. We were a little uncomfortable in Japan here again because of the seniority system. I don't know if you know, but back then, you basically went into a company and you got paid as you got old. And so you're basically rewarding people for aging, but not necessarily for producing results. A climate that tolerates failure. This is very important for an entrepreneur. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're putting everything at risk. It's hard to describe, this is actually a really important concept. A lot of people talk about entrepreneurs in funny ways. They talk about them as, well, there's entrepreneurs everywhere, they say. There's entrepreneurs inside companies. There's an entrepreneur inside Cisco, and that entrepreneur, she developed a great process of, and developed a team and all that. Or there's social entrepreneurs who organize kids and run a debate team. That's not entrepreneurship, the way I look at it. Entrepreneurship, you put everything on the wall, on the line, everything. And the difference is, if you're an entrepreneur in a corporation building a team, you may fail. You may lose your professional reputation, but you won't lose your house, your wife, your children, be sued for the next 20 years. Okay? Failing in an entrepreneurial business is really, really bad. And the difference, I love what one of the professors said, the difference of being an entrepreneur inside a corporation or in a social setting is like, succeeding is like training for and winning the Olympics. Being an entrepreneurship business is like combat. That's very much the difference. But Japan did not do so well here because it doesn't tolerate failure. Not only would you fail, you lose everything, but you couldn't ever get a job again. It was just too much of a penalty. At least here you can declare bankruptcy, go away for a year, come back and start another company. Open business environment. It's really important that the flow of innovation goes back and forth among companies. Not everybody has a monopoly on good ideas. Good ideas need to flow. That's how things improve. And there wasn't a whole lot of that going on in Japan. There was a lot of inside company innovation. And so the innovation tended to stay inside. In the United States, here in Silicon Valley anyway, the way we tend to have open innovation is people quit and don't work for the competitor and they took everything over there. That's kind of the way it happened. University industrial collaboration is very, very important. That is, that universities have to collaborate and work with industries to develop knowledge and move it out into the economy. We rated Japan yellow on this because of the system of university industry collaboration in 1989. A lot of the time, a professor in the university or some department in the university would be seconded by some company, say Hitachi, and say, we've got to develop a product, please help us. And they would all work together and develop a product for Hitachi, and Hitachi would get the patents. That's not the way this system's supposed to work. At Stanford, we don't do that. If a corporation wants to come and do basic research with us, and work together with us and do basic research, that's fine. But we're not the engineering department of, Cisco or anybody. And that's a proper way to do it because that lets ideas go out, not keep them. It makes the ideas open, not a closed innovation. So we rated Japan a little bit less because of that system. Industrial government, nonprofit cooperation. This is a big thing. There's lots of good stuff going on in Silicon Valley, like joint venture Silicon Valley and all kinds of things to support the infrastructure and social society around us. And Japan has lots of these things too. It does lots of, it just makes things nice. High quality of life. This is important. People tend to live where they want to. And if you want to hire really, really good people and have really smart people around, it's nice to have a good place to live. And of course, Japan's a nice place to live. Very nice, in fact. You like my little fact? I spent a couple hours putting each of those in, a different one for each one. Anyway. Specialized infrastructure. This is really important for young companies. And this means VCs, accountants that know how to write tax returns of new companies, lawyers who understand what's going on when you're funding a company and all that kind of stuff, a specialized infrastructure. There were nobody like that in Japan in 1989. Not nobody, but they were hard to find for sure. Culture of leadership. This is very important. It's hard to describe how important that is, and some people, me one of them, think this is the most critical thing in an entrepreneurial culture. And we could spend hours talking about this. But the main thing is there a culture where it's understood what the leader does and the leader understands his or her obligations. A leader stands first, protects people, protects his or her people. A leader takes less pay than the people are paying when things are tough. If you have to shorten up on payroll, the leader goes to zero pay. All those things. In fact, the failure of the auto industry in the United States is a failure of leadership, in my view. So is there a culture of leadership? People will follow you if you have all the elements of the leader. By the way, the military does a really great job of teaching these things. All kinds of things about how you can delegate authority, but you can't delegate responsibility, that kind of stuff. And there's a big culture of leadership in Japan, so no big issue there. Global connections, this is really important. New companies are associated with Luke hitting Global V, finding supplies and customers everywhere. Of course, Japan's a large market that way. So this is how we saw Japan in 1989. Things changed though. From 1991 to 1997, there was a liquidity crisis. Similar in look to what's going on here, but the causes were different. And post the crisis, the main bank system there, the main banks that provided finance and the monitoring of the investments, failed to restructure. There were no main banks still hanging around when I started working there in the year 2000 or so, where they were all buying each other up and going bankrupt and being financed to the government. The lack of liquidity created consensus in Japan, certainly in the political sphere, that they needed finance for startups. Needed new finance, needed startups to generate employment. And if we're going to have startups to generate employment, we need people putting money in. All right, so they wanted foreign direct investment because there was a lack of liquidity in Japan. But there was a problem because there was a lack of transparency and shareholders' rights. It was difficult to form a VC firm there because there were the legal structures. You couldn't set up an option plan. The accounting was not transparent. There was no such thing as consolidated accounting, or at least no legal requirement of it. So from 1997 to 2006, there was a huge just raft of legal changes in Japan, particularly in regards to its corporate governance. And these are just some of them with the dates. And this is obviously dates, and these are obviously things that happened. And you can see starting in 1997, a bunch of things. Stock options were allowed at a great level. They were sort of allowed before, but they really were allowed here. They decreased the minimum capital. I'm not going to read all these, but some of these are real important. For example, to form a stock issuing company in Japan, before this law, it took $100,000 before you could start your company. After this law, it took 1 cent. Tax benefits for angels. If you got money into a company, you got tax benefits. They de-allowed mergers. This is important. They allowed the repurchase of shares, allowed holding companies to require consolidated accounting. The next year, set up the legal structures for limited liability partnership. This allowed VC firms to form. Because VCs are organized as limited liabilities partnerships. Allowed stock swaps so that you could buy other companies with stock. Mark-to-market accounting and a version of buy-dole. If you don't know what buy-dole is, that's the university industry cooperation legislation in the United States. In the year 2000, a lot of corporate divisions and lots of things happened. My favorite one, because I was a director of a company in Japan then, was they limited the director's liability, which I thought was just a great idea. Actually, and it is kind of important. Before that, if you were the representative of the